back, everybody, to the Kinda Athletic podcast. This is episode 9. I'm Sam.
I'm Kellen.
All right, so for this week...
Really quick, did you realize that we're both wearing Central Washington things?
Except mine's better. But
mine was free, so whose was better?
Well, yeah, you got me there.
Yeah, okay.
That's okay. I have a free basketball one. Never played basketball.
That's pretty legit. I only have like 3 for playing basketball, so that ratio is not too good for me. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
So, we're going to talk about Hydroplanes. Their season is starting soon, so I'm probably going to get... Yeah, we'll see. That'll be fun. And then we're going to touch on the finals a little bit. I think the Celtics are up 2-0, if I remember correctly.
I know what you're saying now. Yep.
The Stanley Cup, we'll talk just a little bit about that. We're going to make some predictions for our All-Star team. Just talking back and forth about who we think should be selected. We're just going to go through like the starting lineup, nothing too in-depth.
I'm not going to go too far. That could take forever.
And then we're also going to talk about like the betting scandal in the MLB that just kind of came up. There's a few players. I wouldn't say there's anybody like major, but just the theme is important for future, I would say. Then we'll always end with a verse. Then we have one other thing that we're going to do that I will mention when we get there. It's kind of a fun thing we're hoping to start to do every week. But so to start with the hydroplane season starting. So Kellen's family knows a lot about the sport. I do not.
Yeah, so like just to give you an idea, my mom is from Eastern Washington. There's a race in Tri-Cities, Washington, Kennewick or Pasco on the Columbia River. She probably started to go in like the 70s. And like through college and stuff, obviously you kind of like don't, you're too cool for it or whatever. But then she got really back into it probably in like the early 2000s. I think she was always into it, but then we all kind of grew up going to it, all 4 of my sisters and myself. I would say I definitely have followed it the most out of my sisters just because I'm just sporty or whatever. But my sisters all do know a lot about it or whatever. But yeah, I think I've gone to Tri-Cities and Seafair. Seafair's in Seattle for the past 24 years in a row. So
literally older than me.
Yeah, probably, honestly. That's probably true. That's cool. Kind of crazy.
That is super cool to have a tradition like that with your family.
Yeah, it's a small sport. It's really only in the Pacific Northwest. There are some races out east, but like all the boats, besides I think 1 right now, are in Washington. Okay. Out of the 8 or 9 that we could have, we might have 10 to 12, but consistently 8 to 9. And there's a couple like in the Midwest, but they don't race right now. But we'll get into that.
Cool. Yeah, so... What I did, since I didn't know too much about it, I looked up a little bit of history. So for that, those of you that don't know, and Kellen, please correct me if anything is wrong.
Honestly, you'll probably know. The history will probably be spot on.
So what it kind of said was that the Unlimited Hydroplane Racing Series started in 1946, so just after World War II, because there was a surplus of like airplane engines left over.
Yeah, the Rolls-Royce and the Allisons, and I think there were some Merlins too every once in a while. But the Rolls-Royce and the Allisons were the big ones.
Yeah, and so that was started by Seattle designer Ted Jones. So just how he's talking about, definitely located more here locally in the Pacific Northwest.
Well, and you have to remember too, back then during the war, Boeing being here, that's why it was kind of a massive. Yeah, that's why it was so big.
Yeah, and then there was one other thing. Oh, so then it said the first national circuit for the Unlimited started in 1947, so just kind of a year after, I guess.
Yeah.
And all the 3 out of 4 races the winners of 3 of 4 races had an Allison engine, so just like you were talking about.
Yeah, there were a lot of them.
And then just a couple other things was these. So they're, if I didn't say it already, they're airplane engines. So
yeah, I think technically now they
might be a little bit different now, but that's how they started.
I think they started as airplane, and I think technically now they're helicopter engines.
Okay,
so they're still aircraft. Engines on a boat.
So they have this. They have 5 races a year.
That's right now.
Based on their points are based on like how they finished position in a race. Just keep adding up, and then every year the winner of this like whole thing,
high points is what it's called.
U1 is so they get the number, which is kind of cool. I think that's how motocross is too.
Yeah,
if I think correctly. And then which I thought was kind of cool is these go over like 200 miles an hour,
easy,
which is wild.
Yeah, easy. So so there's. To give you kind of some more insight with it, there are 5 races now. Back in the day, this was as big as NASCAR, if not bigger. They would go to Phoenix, they would go to Florida, they would go to Texas. Their summer was like a NASCAR.
Yeah.
It kind of fell apart a couple reasons. Budweiser was a huge sponsor. There was a guy named Bernie Little, passed away. Family didn't want to keep it going, kind of fell apart. So Budweiser left, which was the kind of the key sponsor, which was big. as well as a lot of liability issues. I mean, back in the day, the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s,
there
was a good fair few deaths, and they started to close the cockpit. They changed everything was an open cockpit. There's been a lot of innovations with the boats. People don't die very often anymore. There have been a couple since I've been watching it and following it. Little boats, there's all classes, a big boat, little boat. So the big boats are the unlimiteds. I don't think I know a guy died and was brought back to life, but I know that in the big boats, I don't remember someone dying recently. I know little boats, little boats will go like something like catch a wave and they'll go over the top of each other, a skid fin, a rudder.
Yeah.
It has happened. It's happened over in Tri-Cities. It is a very dangerous. It's just like NASCAR. I mean, there's death in NASCAR. But yeah, so they used to do a lot more races. Now there was only 5. So I'm very passionate about it, trying to continue to just spread the word and post a lot of stuff about it all the time, just to get people's eyes on it. I know Pat McAfee posted one of the flips last year. The boats do flip quite often. There was a crazy flip last year over in Madison, Indiana, all the way full 360. Maybe we'll throw a video or something up on it. We can try to do it. Totally fine. Driver was good. Boat was pretty much okay. But yeah, so now there's only I think there's 8 boats technically, 7 boats, 8 boats.
So the list that came out was 7 from Tri-Cities. So I don't know if that's
correct, so there's 8. So Tri-Cities about what was it, 2 weeks ago now?
Something like that, yeah.
Had testing. So the boats will go out somewhere and they'll test. They get they do all their off-season work because they can't really just go on. It's kind of like a NASCAR. You can't just go onto a road and just be like, "Yep, we're just gonna test it." You can't just go on the lake and do that. So they went to Tri-Cities. They all tested. There were 7 boats there. There's one other boat that's down in Alabama being finished up. All the boats look pretty good. Mm-hmm. There are kind of 4-ish boats that are pretty consistent. I kind of told you this.
Yeah.
There's the U91, which is Andrew Tate. He's in the boating world. Him and J. Michael Kelly are probably the 2 biggest names. They race all the time. J. Michael Kelly just won a little boat race out in Illinois this weekend. Oh, don't know. He lives he actually lives really close to here. He lives, I think, down. I think he lives in. It might be Buckley or Enum, Claw or whatever. Nice. So he lives around here. A lot of drivers are down in this kind of Auburn area. The U40 with Dustin Eccles is a very fast boat. Just can't really put it together in a race, but a super fast boat.
Yeah.
As well as the U9, which is Corey Peabody, which is confusing because there's Beacon Plumbing and then there's Beacon Electric, which is the same company, but they have 2 different, it's an umbrella. Those are kind of the 4 best boats. There is the U27, which is Wiggins, which you probably don't have listed.
I don't. Yeah.
So that boat is brand new. It just got rebuilt, and they have Dave Vilwalk, who, if you know anything about boat racing, he is the Tom Brady of it. He's coming out of retirement for, I think, the second time. He is 67 years old.
Jeez.
I know a couple of the drivers I talked to over in Tri-Cities, that are we love to have the boat on the water, but we would really need a younger person to be able to promote this a little better. Yeah. 67 is a little old.
Yes, you're people to attach themselves to
it.
Create a fan base.
Exactly. And then there's some smaller boats that are kind of coming back. There's the U21 and the U12. The U12 is actually kind of like a friend of mine. I grew up going to school with his nephew, the owner. Graham Trucking is a local trucking company. He's a really great guy. They both, that boat, the 21 and the 12, have young new drivers.
Nice. That's good.
Second years in. Jimmy King in the 12, his dad has driven forever the last piston-powered boat. Now, that boat's not coming out of the garage this year due to just the sport and the ownerships, and there's no money, and it's just, it's hard to do it. So the boat's actually for sale. So if anyone wants to buy a piston-powered hydroplane, it's for sale. It's about $500,000 for the trailer and everything. The 21 is a brand new boat, so we're all kind of excited to see what they can do with that. Again, newer driver, so it's going to be kind of interesting. And then there's the 11. The 11's always kind of been there, but just kind of been there. In no disrespect, they usually can toy in a couple races, but they just don't have the equipment that a lot of the other teams have, the money. But they do have a big sponsor in Mercury Coffee, which a lot of people around the Seattle area might know. So we do definitely promote.
I think it's definitely more north.
It is definitely up in Redmond, Bellevue, up there.
It's I definitely heard of it, but being down south, I don't see it.
Yeah, I think it's up north more, but it's a local. And if you guys are local, then please go support them. I think so. They're a small business. they're not super small. They actually have quite a few locations.
Yeah.
And then the other kind of fun fact that I love about them is the Gold Cup is the oldest motorsport trophy in the world.
That is cool.
And it's hydroplane racing, which is so funny because no one even knows what it is. It'll be in San Diego this year, so they go the end of June. They'll go down to Guntersville, Alabama. 4th of July, they'll be in Madison, Indiana. End of July, they'll be in Tri-Cities, where I will be, of course. And then the next weekend, first weekend of August, they're in Seattle.
Yep.
And then San Diego, I don't even know when it is. I can quickly get it, though. I think it's the end of September. It's end of September. And I might be trying to go to that, too. September 13th and 15th. They do it on saltwater there. So most of the other races are freshwater. So this one's saltwater.
Does that change?
Yeah, so they'll bring a bigger air duct to block as much water from getting in. But it's really fun. And then I'm going to make Sam do it for sure. And I would love to have the fans and anyone that listens try to do it too if you want. Super easy. There's a little fantasy thing. It's called Deck to Deck US or .us, no .com, which is throwing my head off. Deck to Deck.us. It's just a little fantasy league that some fans have made that we do every year. I do it with my family, but I want to try to do it with some fans and see if we can get random people to do it. It's super easy to sign up. You pick boats for each race. And then if you kind of like Sam said, if they win, you get 400 points. If you get second, you get 350, and it kind of just goes down. And we can kind of do a fun little league, and maybe at the end we can give a prize away. I don't know. We can try to figure something else up, try to get some incentivizing to want to maybe watch the sports. The sports are always on YouTube on the H1 Unlimited page. But we're definitely going to talk about them more. I know, like I said, a lot of the boats looked really fast in Tri-Cities. They looked good. Yeah. Like you said, they easily on the front stretch and the back stretch, the straightaways, they're easily going over 200 miles an hour.
That's crazy.
Even into the corners, they're probably only dropping down to like 150 because most laps. I think the fastest lap ever in qualifying was last year in Alabama, and I want to say it was like 174, which is really fast.
That's insane.
But yeah, and they at one point in time, one of the hydroplanes owned the fastest straightaway. It's just flat straightaway speed. It was Dave Villach, actually the same 67-year-old when he was probably in his 40s, doing the Budweiser, just drove it straight in a straight line, I think in Arizona or something.
That's wild.
And I don't know how fast he went, but I know he went super fast. But yeah, I'm really passionate about it. I love it. I'm going to try to maybe do some interviews and stuff down in the in Tri-Cities and in Seattle if I can find anyone that wants to chit chat.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to do some stuff and see if we can get, like I said, we're just going to try. This podcast is just kind of for fun, and we're working on it. And that's like the one thing I told Sam was like, we're going to talk about this because I'm passionate. I would love to be able to get whatever we have, 50 people to click on it, because that's 50 more people that might help the sport. Yeah. And that's all I can ask for. So
for sure.
Yeah, and Sam's going to learn everything about it, and he's going to know as much as I do.
I did go to Seafair last year, so
you did go to one day, yeah.
I did see it,
and he'll come again this year. We'll make him go this year one more time. My pastor actually wants to come, and it was really funny because me and my mother we know so many people that we really don't like pay for tickets anymore. We kind of just know people, and people help us out and get us stuff. So we kind of had to tell my pastor that, and my mom was like really embarrassed. She was like, we don't really pay. And my pastor's like, what do you mean? Like, how do you get in? And she's like, we just kind of know. Yeah, she's like, just hold my hand and we'll just go. It's like, we'll just bring you along. But yeah, it was pretty funny, but it'll be exciting. So hopefully maybe he can come down and check it out. He's from, I think, Idaho, so I don't think he's ever really seen it. It's kind of like yourself where I had to force you to come. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So,
nice. Well, anyway. Cool. So yeah, we'll definitely be, like you said, kind of following that along as the season continues.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to the Kind of Athletic podcast. Be sure to follow us on all of our socials and come back next week for next week's episodes.